Wish I overcame at that time. Remind me to tell you why I think that was my problem. I was driven a lot by fear, and the fear was more of the fear of tomorrow. How can you get settled as a young man? The jobs are scarce and all that. Meanwhile, this is a talented young man who, it seems at that time, all the communities I was in, everybody wanted me to be a part of them. So I was just the only person that wasn't seeing what others were seeing, you know. So which is why it's very important to someone like me to share this kind of experience with people. When I was in comedy, I used to have this saying that I won't wait until you die to tell you how good you are. I think it's a waste standing by your graveside and telling you, oh, he was such a good man, and the guy never knew I knew he was such a good person. So I don't hesitate to tell people because I feel it's also a part of self-discovery, you know, the testimonies that people bear, you know. But then this is my case. Everybody around me saw something that I wasn't seeing, and then there was that conflict of being pulled in so many directions because I didn't have this focus. So as a comedian, everybody wants you to be at their wedding, sometimes for free. You know, in fact, that's where I learned something that I was so pained when I learned about it, when I now realized what was going on. You know, no matter how good you are, you must learn the business of your skill. There's a business to every skill. So if you like be 100% on a particular skill, it's the person that knows the business of that skill that will make the money. The person that can walk up to the presidency and say, I can brand your campaign and you will be back as the president, is the person that will pay the graphic designer and is going to get the best graphic designer in the world. He's the person that will pay the videographers, the documentary, the filmmakers. Everybody is going to pay them. And these are all top-notch guys wherever they are. But there's this person that knows how to tell stories. And when to tell the president, I'm going to tell your story and you will win. He's going to make money over you. Now, as small as that lesson is, I suffered for that, you know, for a very long time. So that's by the way. So how I now got mainstream into the creative field, you know, full-fledged, was I've always had this flair of wanting to be in a non-profit sector because I love helping people, and then I felt there's money there. But then I'm a creative, I'm good in my graphic design and all that, but I never quite saw that as something that someone should aspire to become. How can you aspire to be a graphic designer? How much money are you going to make? How far will you go in life as a graphic designer? So I was just lost in my own small world of make-believe. I didn't like being called a web designer because I felt it was very stressful. The learning curve is so steep, you know. I also didn't like I just didn't like being called a creative. I didn't want to be a full-fledged creative because I felt I'm going to really struggle, you know. Anyway, regrets. So what I did was I started charting a different course. So rather than sit with my creativity and, you know, hone my skills and get better, I used those skills instead as a folder for a different part. And then I started charting this part as a development communicator, and it seemed to be a smooth ride, sort of. I got involved in campaigns, non-profit campaigns. There's this bill that was passed into an act. They call it Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. the first act in the country that says you cannot beat a woman, you can go to jail. I mean, there's now a law backing that. That was back in 2012, 2013. We're the ones that pushed those bills. Social media was just gaining mainstream. So we learned social media, we learned a bit of communication and all that. And I started applying the skills. So the skills were what gave me access to that space, It was easy to be called on board teams that are working on various things across the country because you're a graphic designer, you're available, or because you're a web designer, you're available. We started a non-profit on our own, did a project with the Embassy of Sweden back then. I traveled around the country, implementing the project just because I have the skills that I have. It gave me that access. From there, I got into another non-profit, but this time I volunteered with them for about almost 2 years. And the reason why I did that for free was because I started understanding the power of storytelling. You see, when I got into a non-profit, I found that it's not about the certificates that you have. It's not about the things you have done. It's how you're able to sweet tell what you have done and what your certificate stands for. So I'm sure you guys must have seen this popular joke on LinkedIn about LinkedIn that people, somebody just finished learning how to drive, comes out with this big grammar that I don't know, I can't remember those words, but make it sound bogus. That's exactly how the nonprofit worked for us then at that level. Because we didn't have credentials to say, so you have to find ways to tell. I started understanding this power of storytelling. So, and I understood that I needed to fix myself in certain places, so I'll be able to use that to weave my story, and it worked. The time I spent with those guys. For that 1 year, 6 months. I used it to do a lot of things. I was just pushing myself into different departments, different units. They want to go and do a documentary in one village. I told them I can shoot a documentary. I go there, I shoot the documentary. Before I go there, I'll read about it, read about the audio, how to manage audio, the various aspects of doing documentary. I'll read about these things and I'll go there and I'll perform wonders, And they're like, this guy is good. But what I was doing was, I was writing out what I wanted to see on my CV. Now, I wish I was even more ambitious and serious with that, because this is what I did back then. I'll go on LinkedIn, look for jobs that look like what people in my sector are doing, then see what was written, as the things that are written as, the job description, responsibilities and stuff they will do. I began to look out for those things wherever I find myself, so I can say I did that, And that was how it really helped. It got me my first international trip, not as a participant, at a conference, but like I went to represent Nigeria without a certificate, without all this. So it's amazing. Also, I thought, Now, I also got my first fellowship, a 1-year fellowship in New York, and that was also another mind-blowing experience for me, all based on how I was able to weave my story and all that. But then along the line, I found out everything has its limits. There's how far you can push that without substance. I'll say without substance. So while I'm grateful for those opportunities, I found out that there are places. There's a limit to the places it can give you access to. I came back from the fellowship, and I was lucky I got a job with the NCDC. Now, why did I say I was lucky? From my volunteering and all that, years back, I was on the board of Stop TB Partnership, as a creative, and I did everything for them for free. And they were all impressed by all that. And a friend of the board chair now called him that he needs someone to work on his website, and he loves what has been done to the board website. And that was how the guy contacted me. I consulted for him, did a good job for him, cleaned up the website, both the back end, the front end, it's on WordPress and all that. He gave me another task, I did that. I didn't know he was a big shot. I was just doing my stuff until I now learned he was going to be the next DJ appointed by the president. Wow. Okay, wanted me to come and work with him. But unfortunately, I'd already taken another job, and then I was going for my fellowship. So he waited for me for about 1 year, 6 months to come and be the head of comms. Now, I used to tell myself, you must be something for somebody to wait for you for 1 year, 6 months. But I'll tell you where the limits are. Now, I started that job, and it was a tough one. Because at that point, forget all your stories. You're dealing with very real issues right now. Working as the public relations, not officer per se, let me say manager for NCDC back then. Now the thing was that, now government agencies, they are not rated. People don't trust government agencies and all that. And this is this man coming to say, this doctor coming to say he can make NCDC work, that it's possible to make something work in the country. And then I'm on that team. And now I'm not just on that team, I'm on the public-facing side of the team. Meaning a lot of demand on my creative side came to the fore. And that's where not being deep in some of these skills began to, work against me. Now we did an impressive job, but I believe we could have done better. At that point, I really got stretched because I started learning other things like I said before, there's the skill, there's the business of the skill. Now, in managing the business of the skill, unfortunately, you have to deal with people. You have to deal with people. You have to deal with, pressure that comes with the job. For instance, one random person, one random Twitter celeb will just tweet something and call you guys out for something you guys did wrong or did not do wrong and all that. And you have to clean that from the internet. You have to find a way to counter it. So, things around documentation, making sure that everything we do is out in the public space on time and all those things became important. So many other skills started, coming to the fore that I needed to build on. And that's where my dilemma started. Now I know what to learn, the things to learn, but I don't have the time to learn it. At that time, I remember at the peak of my job as the head of comms, I was just sleeping like maybe 2 to 3 hours every night. 2 to 3 hours every night, because I can't afford to sleep more longer than that, because of the amount of work that I needed to do, because I didn't know how to delegate a lot. I was delegating, but delegation is an art. It's really an art. It's more than just telling somebody go and do what. If the person doesn't have the capacity, you have to carry out your own task. Carry out the task of training that person, and then carry out the task of ensuring that person does the job, and then taking responsibility for that job, meaning that if the person doesn't deliver, you have to deliver on it. It was a rough ride. Then I claimed to be a communications professional. And from the small things like writing press releases. We wrote press releases like sometimes at a point we're writing like 1 press release per week, Whenever there are outbreaks, peak of outbreaks, you go write style. From your press release, you break it down to social media stuff. You do the graphics for the. At some point, I was doing all that. I was supposed to be managing a team. So, these shortcomings started emerging and all that, and I really regretted that. I wish that those years that the pressure was not much, I knew that I was supposed to learn these things, so that I could have done those learning and then implemented it. Anyway, it was too late to wish at that time. Then COVID came. I resigned because I was really burnt out, and I started consulting. But while I was doing all that, on the side, of course, I was consulting for others and stuff. And that's how the journey has been up to the present. So my skills in graphic design, web design, being a wizard with Microsoft Words and stuff, Microsoft Office suite and stuff, technology, making tech work and all those stuff. Those were the things that got me through. But I just wished that those are things that I was able to put in order before I got involved. But I guess I didn't see that far. Anyway, that's the summary of how I've journeyed up to where I am now. And so one more thing that I really didn't, I really wished that I was aware was the power of dreams. So in 2011, there was this woman that came from Atlanta. She's a pastor. She came to our church and ministered and stuff. Then we became friends, and then she went back. And this was when I was on my second job, working for the church as a communications officer or something. So I really love traveling. I really wanted to travel, but I don't even have the means. How was my salary back then? My salary was 40,000, 2011. Maybe 2012, 40,000. So I couldn't even pay rent. Not to talk about traveling out of the country. I don't even have a passport. In fact, I didn't even know what it took to travel. But sometimes I would just type an address in Atlanta, link it to the woman's house, then I'll start surfing and be behaving as if I'm on the street and driving, just be surfing on the road. Sometimes when I see a vehicle pass, I just imagine that we are interacting. I was just doing my own, I was just dreaming and stuff. And I really believed that I'd been to all these places. But I didn't know what I was doing. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 4 years later, I was now going to visit her when I was on my fellowship. And it's not a particular side of the road, but all of a sudden I just remember that I've seen this road before. I've seen this road before. I started, back then, some of the landmarks were in my mind. I started looking out for the landmarks, and the realization just dawned on me that this is something that I've seen before. I took myself there, I dreamt about it. And now, look at me in the US. I just broke down, I started crying because I'm like, how did I get to the US? 0 naira on my pocket. How did I get to the US? To the point that, see me going to visit her. When I was having this dream, I had no link to the things that took me here. In fact, there was no link. I didn't see it coming at all. So I started crying, and I was like, if I had known, I would have dreamt more. Looked for something more, be more deliberate about it. And it was a lesson I took into my future. So, summary of my mistakes. Now, this is supposed to be a plus to whoever is multi-talented. It then means that you're supposed to be versatile, and you are also supposed to be very resourceful. So while I'm resourceful, while I'm versatile, I was highly conflicted. I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. I was spread thin across all the things that I know to do because I was driven by survival. I just need to survive. I started paying rent. I was happy. I started paying my first rent. I had to look for the money to pay rent and stuff and all that. So it means that I have to be anywhere my skill is needed. And because I have to be anywhere my skill is needed, I'm always stressed. I'm always busy. No time to learn what I need to learn to get better at what I'm doing. So it was really a big deal. But later, I mean, 1 or 2 years, I engaged a brand coach, a brand identity coach, and I was able to make something out of this. If I had known what I knew, I mean, if I knew what I just got to know that time, it would have been a different approach for me. And one of the slides will talk about whatever that approach will have been. So I'll come back to that slide. So this still is one of my biggest regrets because I didn't dream big. It's hard to dream. It's hard to dream. But if you can dream, it makes things happen. So to me, what it means to dream is, to go into the future, remove every limitation that is before you right now, and say what you want. Say what you want in terms of the quality of life that you want. Say what you want in terms of the company you want to keep. Say what you want in terms of the impact you want to, create, you want to make on people, on communities. In fact, dream about what kind of communities you want to impact. I mean, build a life free of obstruction, free of anything that can stop such a life. Just feel free to dream. It's hard, but if you can do it, it's what gives you meaning in life, honestly. So I wish I knew right now what it meant back then to actually dream. I didn't know. And why didn't I know? I was on my own. I didn't understand what mentorship meant. Of course, they talk about mentorship in church, talk about mentorship in all these events, but the practicality of mentorship is it can elude you. You won't know. It can elude you. Now, let me tell you guys something. See, this is your team, but I have a lot to say about you guys, but I'm coming. There's serious opportunity for mentorship on this team. See, one of the biggest issues I'm dealing with right now is you can now see opportunities, you recognize them as opportunities, but you can't take them because of the cost to you now. If I love and engage, but if I say, let me come and join you guys, I have to answer to my wife. I have to answer to my rent. I have to answer to my other responsibilities that you don't have right now. So I can't afford to. Well, find someone that looks like what you want to achieve in a particular thing, and don't explain to yourself. Just go. If your heart releases you, go. The funny thing is that you don't only pick good things from mentors, you pick bad things too. Mentors will hurt you, they will annoy you. Those are lessons too. They're actually lessons. They are lessons that will cook you up to become what you actually need to be, to achieve what you want to achieve. So, I planned, but I failed to execute. So, this is me with all these so-called skills. I'm going to make sure that this skill, I'm going to finish learning it. So I do a timetable for it. Monday, 2 hours, this, you do that. And then I know I need to learn public speaking. I need to learn public speaking. You set the goals and all that. But I'm stretched everywhere. There's no way I can, get it done. So now I'm at a place where I'm not seeing, like I said, I'm now aware of what the opportunities are. But it's when those opportunities show up, you now recognize that, this is actually an opportunity. If I had done this, I would have been ripe for this opportunity. I mean, it's a really bad place to be when you realize an opportunity is an opportunity only when the opportunity shows up. Because then you don't have an opportunity to prepare for it. You don't have an opportunity to prepare for it. So if I knew what I know now, I would have killed myself to go through with whatever I needed to do to become whatever I was supposed to be at that time. So that also goes with I didn't maximize learning. There was just a lot to learn, but because I had spread myself too thin, I didn't have that focus. I wasn't able to, pour myself into what mattered at that point. I just know a little about everything. I want to talk about branding, storytelling. I can tell you a lot, but I don't have something I can take to the market for value. So if he doesn't know me, he wouldn't have called me to come here. I'm very good with training. I'm very good with teaching. I'm very good with, helping people learn the ropes around technical stuff and all that. But if he doesn't know me, I know I can help you brand. I can help you brand yourself for people to see you, help you develop consistency for your brand exposure and all that. But I don't have one. That's what we're talking about. I don't have it. See, man, I leave that thing. So I promised myself that it won't be a time of regret for me. It's just time of learning also, that I missed some things. So now this is very important. Know yourself, embrace it, and do it quickly. I didn't want to be called a graphic designer. Graphic designers are wretched. Graphic designers work in UTC. That's the way I was thinking. I didn't understand that graphic design is a really powerful field. It's a powerful skill. When I go to New York, I started reading this one graphic design book, and I saw one of the authors, one of the persons that was featured in that book, she did a job for Planned Parenthood. And this is what she did. Planned Parenthood were doing their 20th anniversary or something. But it was it was an anniversary for them, and they needed to mark it in a big way. So they called this woman that we want to make a statement for this anniversary. Give us idea. And what this woman did was she did her research, brought about how many years of history of Planned Parenthood. I think up to 50 years, I don't know, but it was very long. She brought it, so newspaper clippings from their past, publications from their past, works they've done from the past, testimonials of people from way back, some people who have died and stuff. She now brought all these things together. And this is what she did. When you walk into their building, from the staircase, they were on the first floor. From the staircase, she just painted the whole wall with their history. So as you start walking, it's like you're just entering Planned Parenthood history. And then as you go on the wall, as you keep looking, you'll be catching up. And then the graphic, the tone of the graphics kept changing from grayscale and all those things, started turning to color and all that, till you get to the reception. Then you now see that you are now here, with Planned Parenthood. And that was the work of a graphic designer. I said, graphic design? I read that book, where. That was the first time my mind opened up to what a graphic design meant. So I went crazy and started researching agencies in the US. I visited about 2 of them to see what an agency looks like. These are things we read in books. They will tell you one agency in Brooklyn. Meanwhile, we're in Kubwa here. But this time, I'm in Brooklyn. I walked into there. I'm like, I've heard of you guys. You know this lean startup? Eric Reyes or something. Yeah. He was having an event in New York. I go there. I went to meet him. I said, your book changed my life. He was like, really? I said, yes. He said, this is the kind of story I want to hear. Hug me. Author that we see on books. It brought all these things to me. I wished that I accepted that I'm good with graphics and this is what I want to do. I wished that I accepted that I'm good with web design and this is what I want to do. I wished that I accepted all those things because I had like 5 years of pursuing something. So I really wished I embraced what I later got to know about is that's called your professional identity. I wished I embraced it. You don't fight your professional identity. You don't. You embrace it. if there's something nudging you, sorry, I'm not supposed to say this, but you see these guys doing LGBTQ community. I learned a lot, relating with them. It's hard for people to understand what they are going through. I'm not advocating or I'm not advocating or not or condemning. I'm just saying that there's a way ideas, there's a way identity, wants to pop out of you. If you fight it, you'll always be in conflict. And that's been my journey. You'll always be in conflict. This was my identity. I didn't find peace until I accepted that I'm a graphic designer. And that was not until recently. Because if I had accepted it earlier, imagine my journey since 2010. Maybe I'll be the head of Engage.
Possibly.
So maybe we'll change the name a bit. Or the first letter will be capital.
I think so.
I don't know, there are so many ideas, you know what I'm saying?
You know what you're saying?
See, embrace yourself, know yourself, what you're capable of. Don't fight it. Embrace it and do it quickly. Don't be afraid whether the road you are taking, where is it going to lead me to? At least start first. At least give yourself credit that you led a journey on a road that you chose, that you felt like you should choose, and then you went with it. Anyway, I wish I did. Now, everything, I wrote some notes for this because this one is very, very important for me. Story. This is slide WhatsApp. Okay. See, your life is a story, whether you like it or not. And the content of that story is your market value. It's what you take to the market. And you cannot lie to yourself about it. So if the value is not there, you can't lie. You can only lie for so long. It will come back and meet you. So, but what does that mean? The implication of that, what that means is where you are coming from, it's not your fault. Where you are is a result of all the parts you have been coming from. Take a look at your timeline. So you were born, you got into this. There were high points, the themes of your life, there were high points, there were low points and all that. And all that brought you to where you are. What that tells you is you are able to say where it goes next. So that's the importance of story, knowing your story. Your story, is embedded in your identity. The journey that you have taken so far is what has molded you to what you are right now. But it also gives you, and it also empowers you to decide where it's going to go from now. All the opportunities that you have, that you are engaged right now, it's not an accident. It's your story that brought you here. Now, where it's going to lead you next is up to you. But remember that when you leave Engage and you move, I'm using Engage because you are all in Engage right now. When you leave Engage and go, a story has been told. You see the power of this story, right? When you leave Engage, the story has been told and you've moved on. The question will now be, what is that story? What is that story? You see, because of this realization that you are a story in the making, and you are soon going to be a story that will be told, that realization tells you that you can be deliberate about what that content is going to be right now. Like I said, wherever you're coming from, at some point, it wasn't your fault. But there's going to be a time where it will now be a direct result of what you did or did not do, or what you allowed or did not allow. So, you are in Engage right now. The question will be, what am I doing here? 1 year from now, what will be the story like? What will be the content of the story? that thing was so powerful for me, and it really spurred me in that communications job that I did with NCDC. You see, the work was so tasking. I didn't have time for my family. I didn't have time for church. I didn't have time for anything leisure. But one thing I was looking at was, if I live here, this is what I want to see on my LinkedIn. This is what I want to see on my CV. I did this, I did this, I did this. So I wrote those things somewhere. So anytime I read those things and say, I trained, I did a media training for managers and also managed the mentorship session for them over the course of 1 year. So that they can be better equipped, to engage with Nigerians instead of the DG always going on. I wrote that somewhere. I mean, most of the time I'm always tired and stuff, but when I think about those things, that story is not complete yet. It's not complete yet. Keep going, keep going, keep going. When I get frustrated and I want to resign, I'm like, man, if I resign now, my story is not complete yet. It was when I reached a point where I felt like, okay, I've written enough. And I resigned. And then, the signs were everywhere. I had to stop. 2 signs. One of the signs was I had an accident on the 14th of November, 2019. Broad daylight, afternoon. I slept off. Driving, I slept off.
Why are you looking at me?
No let that happen to you, guy.
It has happened before.
As in, I was driving physically like this, and then it translated into dream. I was driving, I didn't know that I slept. It was when I heard the sound. Poof, like this. And at some point, I started, my mental health started deteriorating, so I just knew it was time to quit, and then I had to. So, that is the power of your story. You are in charge of your story. If you didn't know, now that you know, it's your responsibility. You're going to live with whatever the consequence, the content of that story is. But you can determine where you want it to go. That's where your dreams come in. You ask yourself, wherever my name is written, how do I want it written? When they're talking about engage, and I'm no longer here, what would the story be? What can I sell to the next employer or the next place that I'm going from engage? Anything you're doing now is what you're going to sell. Like I said, your story is the value that you take to the market. So if you're leaving engage, a creative agency, and you're going to the next place, so maybe you want to go into governance or something, government. What are you going to take from engage? What story is there that speaks to your credibility, the credibility of your expertise, your claim of experience and all that? What is there? So, meaning that you have to be deliberate right now. Even the task they give you, they say go 1 step, but that 1 step doesn't fit your story. It takes 2 to 3 steps to fit your story. I'm going to go that 2 to 3 steps. It's not engage that will benefit from it in the long run. It's actually you. Engage, God forbid, but engage can fold. But your life goes on. Your life goes on. So it's your story. I can say all sorts of things from my own story. Oh, I did this, I did that. The non-profit we started is gone. But the non-profit is what took me to Kenya. It's what took me to my fellowship in New York. It's what I used to demonstrate an aspect of my leadership when I tell people that I have leadership capacity or capabilities. So, be deliberate. Time. Time is currency. Time is currency. Now that you are in engage and you've decided that this is what my story is going to be when I'm done by 2 years, whether you do it or not, time keeps ticking and it keeps going. It keeps ticking, it keeps going. But if you think about time from a broader perspective, you begin to understand the implication of that small wasted time that you didn't use. So there's some new skills I'm learning. I try to learn there was a skill I tried to learn when I was head of comms. Okay, I tried to do a course or something like, okay, knowledge management. Yeah, I tried to learn like a whole course on knowledge management, and I kept dragging until I left as head of comms, came back as as a consultant. And up to this time, I had to discard it. Now, this is a question I'm asking myself. If I had taken just one module per week when I was head of comms, I would have long finished knowledge management by now. But I couldn't even take one step with one. I couldn't pass the first module because I kept going back to that one module. And one day the realization just dawned on me that even if I had done one module per month, by now I would have finished it. But it's so hard to see into the future, to see, to move ahead of time and say, this is where you would be. By the time you are there, this is what you should have, this is what you should have done and all that. It's so hard. So you now play with today. Kai, you know go better for Sabinus. You will watch his video over and over. So Sabinus will go better for you. I mean, you spend time watching these interesting videos and all that. One night is gone, another night is gone, another day comes and goes and all that. It's because you're not thinking in terms of time. See, this video is called the overview effect. Where's the play button? Okay, click. I thought I said play immediately. Oh, you downloaded it. Okay, just leave that one. Now, see, astronauts, they were the first to call people's attention to something we call the overview effect. Gemini, how much is Microsoft? Don't record that. I mean, the license is not.
You want to drag me.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's why I will not work, because you're trying to drag me.
What did you do the other time? I think.
Exit, try to exit.
Okay, try to exit. Right. Oh, wow. Okay. So, astronauts were the first to experience this effect called the overview effect. I've done this VR headset stuff, gone to space. What you see when you get to space is, it's just one ball called Earth that you see. And you begin to wonder where those lines came from, that formed countries. You begin to wonder where the conflict came from. So, but you are able to see how we're all connected. You're able to see how we relate to each other. You begin to think in terms of, quantities like time, distance. You begin to, ways you would never have seen if you're on Earth, because you're limited by what you see immediately. For me, that's how I see my journey, my journey through life. Just take a step back. Look at it from a broader perspective. From when you left secondary school, most of us started, dictating how our life will go from university. Take a look at how your journey has been from that time till now. Are you proud of what you're seeing? That's the overview effect. Are you proud of what you're seeing? If you're not proud of what you're seeing, what do you want to change, in that whole journey? Many times when I look at my life, I feel excited at the point I am now because of the realization that I have and the understanding that the next 10 years are going to be solely exactly what I want. Not what situations and life, throws at me. It's exactly what I want. Because I've learned to tell my story. I've learned to document. I've learned to project, to dream, to say how I want it to be. So your life is a story. Everything answers to your story. What you write, make it a worthy read. This is how you find. This is a statement to myself. I used to be like those conflicts that come to me. Sometimes they make me just want to not be alive, I'm not saying I'm suicidal, but I reach points like that and I'm wondering, what am I doing here? All these things doesn't make sense and all that. But I find that, imagine a boat in the middle of a sea that land is nowhere in sight. The only thing that gives that both confidence that it's moving in the right direction and it's actually making progress is because there is a map that shows where the destination is. So even though you can't see the destination, you know that, I mean, that boat knows that progress is being made, you know, stuff. I mean, it now makes things worthwhile for you. So that's that about my own life. Now, what do I think about Engage? Let me give it to them. Thoughts about Engage. I really felt like I should share this because I think you guys need to hear it from somebody else. All the faults that you need to hear it from somebody else. Okay, it's not the faults. Like I said, we don't have to wait for somebody's absence to say how good they were. So I want to tell you guys the impression you have made on me. I heard your story. Eh? Good one, no worry. So first, I'm saying thank you to every member of the Engage team. And I'll tell you guys why. Now, these things I'm telling you guys is from my heart of hearts. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're the best at what you do. But it means something and then you will know. Now, I'm saying thank you for all you do because I've kind of followed your story a bit. Started learning from that video that she did. And I started paying close attention to what you guys are doing. And until I got to work with you guys in Lagos, I see a bunch of committed, like-minded people, you know, who believe in what they are doing, who believe in the leadership of the team. And I mean, the kind of stress this guy went through, I never heard one complain. In fact, I was just waiting for him to break down. I was just waiting for him to just say, "Oh, I don't tire," you know. But no, what I saw was, this is what we have set our mind to achieve. We'll prove to these people, we'll prove to ourselves that we can deliver on this. And I saw everybody, you know, tearing their hair, everything, to get it done.
Maybe the people that have hair.
Whatever. Now, why is that important? Why am I pointing this out? There's a chance that you guys might take this thing for granted. This environment that you guys have here, is scarce. It's scarce elsewhere. I can count how many places I've worked. One of these, the second place I work, they bastardized my mind. Like slave drivers, ownership. This kind of synergy that you guys experience on this team is not common. It's either you find a boss who is very toxic, creating a toxic environment, or you find team members who are trying to create opportunities for themselves at your own expense, or you find people who are not equally as committed as you. Do you know what it means for you? You have to deliver this thing, you know, to a particular location. Somebody is in charge of packaging it. Somebody is in charge of the transportation. Somebody is in charge of communication. I mean, how this thing will get from there to there. Communicate with the parties involved. Do you know how good it feels to know that all I just need to focus on is what I'm supposed to do, because I'm confident that my counterparts will deliver? One of my biggest frustrations that I had as head of comms was knowing that people cannot be relied upon. We had this big conference, the first international conference on Lassa fever in the world. People coming from everywhere, France, Germany, and all that. We needed to have a bespoke event. I didn't sleep for days because after laying all the plans down, time for people to execute, people disappear. And you're the head of comms, somewhere on your own. what you are doing is you are making reports to the DG. We have achieved this, we have achieved this. He doesn't care who achieved it, who did it on your team. You are responsible. I mean, so that thing really made me, I appreciate anywhere I find a group of people who have decided to work together and they're actually working together. I'm telling you guys, it's not common. I hope that none of you will be in a position where, not just for Engage, anywhere else you find yourself, that is when you're out of that system or that you get to know that what you had was better. So you guys have an uncommon boss, uncommon environment, and I think all of you are kind of uncommon people. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying thank you. I didn't hear you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Good. So secondly, this is a very young team. And with young comes dynamism. You guys are very lucky. Some of us don't old. We don't still know what you know. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, some of us now know what you have already known, but we are knowing it at a later time in our life. And the problem there is, like I said, the cost for us to take on such opportunities has now increased. So I know what to do right now, but I can't because it will cost me more than it's costing you. The work that she's doing right now, I started doing video editing. I got better at video editing after about, say, maybe 5 years of being in that line. And not even at the level at which you're doing it. Because my conflicts, my distractions and all that. So, in essence, what I'm saying is, you need to recognize that what you have right now is unique. Young people are taking over the whole world. They're taking over everything in the world. Even by the sheer by sheer nature, biology and all that. Of course, the young will always take the place of the old, but that's not what I meant. Or what I meant. What I meant was, it's beyond that for us right now. Young people are, because of technology and stuff that are available, you guys are able to achieve much more than the people that came before you were able to achieve when they were your age and all that. So, but what does recognizing that opportunity mean for you? What that opportunity means for you is that you're more deliberate, both in pursuing your opportunities, you're strengthening your expertise, following on mentorship and all those things. You're deliberate about all those things. So, but I'm saying to you that don't let it pass you by. Don't wait until 5 years to now realize that these are things you could have achieved while you were at Engage. 5 years down the line, like an opportunity shows up and you see exactly how you would have been ripe for the opportunity based on where you were positioned before, but you didn't prepare yourself for it. It comes with a lot of hard work, I know. It's a lot of work actually. But the truth is, the more work you do, the higher you go, the work may not necessarily reduce, but the reward increases. What I'm doing now is not so much, it's a bit less than what I was doing when I was head of comms, but the value of what I do has increased. Now the thing is, if you don't grow with this time, the opportunities will come big, but you're not able to cash in. And so you cannot take the value from that opportunity. And at the same time, life pressures come also. You get married, you have kids and stuff, and then this pressure keeps increasing, but your value is not increasing because you didn't do what you're supposed to do when you were supposed to do it. So Engage is different, be different. I hope you guys know that you guys are different compared to other agencies, both in terms of the quality of the people, the quality of the leadership, your values. In fact, it's your values that I'm even talking about. from what I know, interacting with him, interacting with all of you, you guys are not in it for the money, per se. Meaning that there's a way he can talk to you guys. He can convince you to take a 10% cut. The ease with which a boss can do that with you tells you where your priorities and your values lie. And it tells you also what value plays on him. So you guys are different from the other agencies. But now, it's different for you to just be aware that you are different. How about taking a deliberate or taking responsibility for it to determine exactly how different you want it to be? How different do you want it to be in terms of the values that you guys push out into the market? You know, values in the sense that when people encounter you, what do they encounter? Do they encounter integrity? Do they encounter integrity in terms of the business that you do, the delivery of the business, your word is your bond, you know, those kind of stuff. But also in terms of how you reap from the market. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made. How different do you guys want to be? What's the aspiration going to be? How big is it going to be? How far are you guys willing to push yourself? In as much as my time at NCDC was a bit rough, I was really blessed to work with a group of people. The person working in DG's office at that time, the person heading one unit called the AMR unit, antimicrobial resistance. They were key people. There were people that were key to what I was going to deliver. And these were people that were committed. And it meant so much to me that, I won't call them middle of the night, but it meant so much that if the need arises that I have to call you in the night, bless you, go need that ACO. You are sure that these people will be there and they'll be committed to it. So, you guys are different. Be different. And I think how many slides to go? I think that's the last second to the last big picture. So, engage is on a journey. Wherever you are engaged, also you're still on a journey and all that. There's a part you are playing. There's a role you're playing. Take that overview. Look at the whole journey of engage. What part are you owning? What part are you taking responsibility for? I want to be, assuming I join engage now, I'm going to come with a goal in mind to say, what's the vision of this organization? Where is it going? Okay, I want to be responsible for achieving this. Now it looks like I'm doing it for engage, but it's actually my own story. Because when I leave, I'll say, okay, in the past 2 years, I've been busy doing this at engage. And I achieved this. Won't you be happy to be able to say, I achieved? Why will what you achieve just be, I was a graphic designer, and that's all there is to say about your time in engage? I mean, it is to your own detriment. But imagine that your role is graphic design, but what you are saying you achieved has nothing to do with graphic design. I mean, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about ROI, your return on investment for the organization. You're talking about the market share that you're able to capture, you know. You're able to connect yourself to this story and achieve it. I mean, my time in NCC was the best time of my career because there was this part of it that I was a bit deliberate about. Now I can write it on my CV to say, I did this. The opportunities were coming. I didn't even know that was what I was doing until later. If I knew, I'll pursue the opportunities more than I pursue them. So this is what you have right now. You have to decide what is going to be for you.